Marie, is it immoral for me to swipe right on people when they're painters, decorators, plasterers? Because I really need some help with this new house.
I guess yes. But then,
Oh,
if you're genuinely interested in them as a person, then it's just an additional perk.
yeah, it's more a perk than like a
Yeah,
requirement.
yeah.
You could have a dating app for work people, so you can like swipe right if you like the look of your painter, not like in a romantic way, but just in a like I want them to
Oh,
come and
like in
work
a
for me way.
business way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
someone listening to this, please turn this into an app.
an actual app.
Yeah,
What about Valentine's Day? What will you be doing on Valentine's Day?
to be honest, probably working late. That's normally what I'm doing on Valentine's Day. I'm not a celebrator. What
No.
about you?
Oh, I've already ordered myself a Valentine's cheese box
Ooh,
that I'm going to enjoy completely on my own.
that sounds
Because that is
amazing.
the best way to enjoy a cheese box. So that's
Fair.
my plans for Valentine's. Obviously, this is after I've shoveled my way to the front door because of all the cards behind it.
Oh
But,
yeah. If you want to send us a Valentine's Day card, you can send
yeah,
us an
please,
e-card to
please.
beyondmailbag@twinkle.co.uk.
Oh, yeah, that'd be lovely. Because I don't get any.
It's your own time you're wasting. Ramblings from Beyond the Classroom with Marie and Jodi.
So, as you may have guessed, today we're talking about Valentine's Day, and our studio is full of pink balloons, chocolate champagne, and I'm joking. We're both in our own offices
No,
as
yeah.
normal. This is such an interesting date because some people are all about Valentine's Day and they have whole rituals. People who are both in relationships and single, and other people, me included, makes it they want to vomit in their mouth.
Yeah.
Talk about it. That's me. Yeah. So, love as a teacher, dating as a teacher. Where to start? Did you date? Have you dated as a teacher? What's your relationship status?
Well, I'm currently single. I was
Mm-hmm.
married to a lecturer, which was like being
Ooh.
married to a teacher. And
Mm.
there's pros and cons to it because it's nice to talk to somebody in shorthand because you don't have to explain
Yeah.
everything. But at the same time, you can get bogged down with just talking about
Mm.
the same old issues day in, day out. And it's sometimes nice to have somebody who's doing a different kind of job and you get a different insight.
Yeah. So I was dating when I did my PGCE,
Mm.
and there's two reasons we broke up. But one of them was that he kept saying that it was a part-time job and kept
Oh,
saying how, and he could see me crumbling
oh,
under
dear
my
Lord.
PGCE and was still telling me that only worked 3/4 of the year. And
Mm.
I just couldn't get past it. And I think
No.
he was joking, but I haven't
Mm.
forgiven him really for it.
No, that's a bit much.
Mm.
I have dated a man who worked in a nuclear power station.
Ooh.
Now, that was interesting because he was telling me, obviously, all about how it works and
Mm.
how it takes 5 years to decommission it and
Yeah.
how he's probably safer from radiation than I am because they're that protected
Yeah.
in the nuclear power station.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was it. I found that nice to have a different perspective. He would never have dared said that I worked part-time, though, I don't think.
I mean, I went through a stage of dating a lot of accountants
Oh.
and kind of,
Well,
and
you
I
are
think,
maths.
well, I think the thing is like, yeah, I like talking to people who have maths, but I also like being better at maths with them. And I'm not saying I'm better at maths than all accountants, but I was definitely better at maths than these two accountants. And I did
Right.
go on a date the other day with someone who's doing a PhD in maths.
Ooh.
And it was a bit of a downer, really, because he's better at maths than me, and
Mm,
I'm not sure I like that. Maths is my thing.
right.
And I thought it'd be great because we could talk about it, but I don't understand what his PhD is about,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that makes me feel sad. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, it is a difficult one, isn't it?
it
So
is.
today, to discuss all things romantic, we're joined by Tom Rogers, founder of Edudate, the dating website for teachers.
Good morning or
Good
evening.
morning, Tom.
I'm not intentionally doing my Barry White voice there, by the way.
I
That was
love
actually
it.
my normal voice. So.
Love a Barry White.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? Were you a teacher?
Yeah, I still am. I'm actually starting in a new school actually this week
Ooh.
until the summer, which is actually a school for deaf children.
Oh,
So,
that would be
should
interesting.
be an interesting one, which I've never obviously done before. In fact, I've never worked in special education before, so that would be. But up to now, I've been a history teacher.
No, do you sign or?
Yeah, they've got TAs who do the signs. So
good.
because I mean, if I was there on a permanent basis, say beyond the summer, then I'd be
Yeah.
expected to sort of go through the levels of
Yeah.
signing training. But actually, I can probably get away with level 1
Yeah.
for now.
Brilliant.
So that's me. That's work.
And you're a history teacher?
I'm a history teacher, yeah. So I'm
Nice.
teaching history in that school, yeah. So
Good topic, good
all
topic.
secondary.
So tell us a bit about Edudate. Why did you decide to start that?
I mean, to be honest with you, I was just bored in lockdown. I mean, before lockdown. So in sort of like the previous. So I was teaching internationally.
Yeah.
Until the summer of 2019, and I came back to the UK, and I sort of was a bit bored at the Christmas, and I was like, oh, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set up a speed dating event in Leicester, which was where I was teaching at that point. And I just never got round to it. And then obviously the lockdown happened.
Yeah.
And suddenly I had probably 50% more time than I had before then. So I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, you know, the speed dating. And I was like, oh, why not make it an online speed dating thing? So then we started doing monthly virtual speed dating events for teachers. And the name Edudate, I think it just came to me just...
It is a great name.
It is a great name. Although I was considering nuclear date based on what Marie was saying, because I think that would be much more interesting. Like people who work in nuclear power could date each other.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it?
I do also assume everyone who works in a nuclear power plant is also one of the Simpsons. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I think like it was in lockdown, set it up, and then obviously it got a lot of attention. It got a lot of social media traction, and people just sort of embraced it. And then I did one of those a month, and then as we started to come out of the lockdowns, it sort of now evolved into more the traditional model of you log into the website and you potentially message someone that you want to message. The advantage of that is that it means that anyone can log in at any time and do it. The disadvantage, I suppose, or the difference of what it was, is obviously you get that fun of the sort of speed dating events. But as we sort of came out of lockdown, people did tend to sort of engage a bit less in that because they were out and about, because they just were saturated with the digital content. So that's where it's at now. It's still a one-man band, me running it, so it's a little bit of a challenge with the other things I do as well. But I'm still enjoying it, and it's still fun, and relationships have come about because of it. You know, sort of maybe between 5 and 10 couples at the moment who met through Edudate.
That's brilliant. Have you had your first marriage or engagement?
We've had our first baby.
An Edudate baby.
Unfortunately, they want to sort of keep it. They don't want to sort of publicize that. For obvious reasons, but they like the first baby.
First Edu baby.
An engagement. We've had one engagement, different couple, one engagement, one baby, and I know of probably 3 or 4 others who are in relationships. And I suppose there's also those other ones who don't tell you that they've actually been dating for, there's been a few where it's been like, we dated for a few months, but it petered out, and they've told me that like 2 years after they met or whatever. So I mean, it's, but I guess like one of the things that running this has made me aware of is how difficult online dating is for people if you don't if you don't get the likes, if you don't get the messages, and people can get quite it can be quite frustrating. And I guess one of the things you've got to do is try to be patient, but it is difficult when you want to meet someone. It's difficult to stay patient, but that's what you've got to do.
It's your own time you're wasting. So why not stick the kettle on, put your feet up and have a cuppa? Ah, bliss.
Do you think teachers are harder to match up than other professionals because we're so bossy, or is it just that we're so busy?
I think busyness
Yeah.
is the biggest barrier, because the weeks can just pass by, and then you sort of forget about your dating life.
I was dating another accountant, and they lived in like the next town, so it's kind of a half-hour drive, and I was working in the next town in the other direction, so it's like half an hour drive. And we started dating in kind of like June, went on a couple of dates, met over the summer, and like I'd always go to his because it was the summer holidays, and I wasn't at work. And then it became September, and I was like, oh, like I can't really come over because it's Thursday night, and it's going to take me over an hour to get to work from yours, and also I have all this marking to do.
Yeah.
And we broke up. Just like a couple of weeks of me saying I can't come over because, and to be honest, most of it was geography. If he'd have lived in the same town as me, it wouldn't have been the problem. But it was that it was an hour between the two, and on the M1 as well. It wasn't even a nice drive. And it just, and I don't think he realised quite how much work being a teacher is.
No, because it's part-time, didn't you know, Jodi?
Yeah. You only work three days a week. We do have a couple of listener feedbacks to do today. So our first one is just brilliant. So I used to house share with two colleagues from school. We used to go out for dinner or nights out or do the weekly shopping together, and would often see students who'd then ask if we were dating, if any of us were dating. My now husband Dan and I worked in the same school for 8 years. We have Ofsted to thank for getting us together. At the end of the week, we went on a big night out to celebrate Ofsted being over. Then we decided to start dating, but neither of us wanted the staff or students to know we were together in case it didn't work out, and we still had to work together. So if I stayed at his the night before work, he'd drive us to work but stop at the end of the road, so I would get out and walk the rest of the way. After a few weeks of the science teachers discreetly asked what was going on as she saw me every time I got out of his car and wondered what was going on. Eventually we came clean to the staff but not the students. We got married in 2018. The pros of dating at school is that you can really relate to each other after a bad day, a bad lesson, or a difficult parental conversation. The cons is that you see each other all the time, and parents can sometimes say negative things about your other half, and you just have to listen to it. 2 kids later and 1 school move, it's unlikely you will work in the same school again, but I really did enjoy it. Thank you so much for that feedback. It was brilliant. And what a lovely story.
What a lovely story. Yeah, I bet that's the first time Ofsted's got that sort of a result in a school.
Yeah. They have included a picture of their 2 children. I can say they are the most adorable children in the history of the world.
Talking of pictures, Tom, do you offer any advice to people on how to present themselves on dating sites?
I am not an expert on dating. I mean, I've set up Edudate, but I'm by no means would ever give advice to anyone on dating.
Well, I feel like I could write a book because, I mean, maybe it's an age thing. I am middle-aged. But the men I see on dating sites and the photos they present tend to fall into 3 categories. They've either taken it from waist height, and you can see all their double chins. I mean, we've all got double chins by the time we're middle-aged. There's nothing to be ashamed of, but it's not the best angle. Plus the light fitting. I can't tell you how many I've seen with the light fitting in. Then there's the ones who stick their tongues out. That just appalls me. And then they're the ones with the washing. The washing is my favourite. This is the kind of thing I mean. You want to present yourself really well, don't you? You want to be realistic, but you want to give the best view of yourself on a dating site, because at the end of the day, I would think most people are going to go off looks for a first instance.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, I think it just depends. I mean, what you've said is just standard fare, isn't it? It's just like people taking pictures for the website, you know, like make sure you've got a half decent picture. I mean, that's it.
We do have a family tradition. So my dad, when he took his graduation photo, behind him was a washing line full of his neighbour's underwear. And every time one of us graduates, we try and get a picture with some random underwear in the background.
I love it. I love it. Or a big fish. That's another one. There's a lot of men with big fish that they've caught.
Yeah, that is another weird one. I was swiping before this, and there was someone with every picture was a different type of fish, and I was like, am I supposed to see the difference?
Really into fish.
Are they different really breeds of fish?
Yeah.
And like really big fish, not like a little fish, but like, you know, a massive fish.
Yeah.
What's on your mind? Let us know your thoughts, ideas, and anecdotes. drop us a line at beyondmailbag@twinkle.co.uk.
Do you think it's easier to have a partner in the same profession, or do you think it kind of adds some competitiveness and adds extra pressure and so on?
I think it's positive. I mean, I did date someone who was in the same profession and in the same school as me, and generally speaking, it was a positive experience. Obviously, we broke up in the end, which was not positive, but the actual relationship was it did add to the relationship. You know, as you mentioned earlier, it can be frustrating, the sort of lack of understanding maybe around what happens and how it goes on. I think that's a common thing that teachers experience. I think that can make a difference, being with someone who gets. I think having the same holidays is obviously beneficial.
Yes.
I think being out, especially if you want to have a family and all that sort of stuff, then having the same holidays is great. I think having quite often, on a dating website, you put in like your educational background or whatever, or your education level. I suppose with a teacher, you sort of know that they've, I don't know, been educated to degree level or whatever it is. So I think that's interesting. I think the downsides, obviously, I suppose it's saturation and being in the teaching bubble world.
Yeah.
But I think generally speaking, though, and not just through Edudate, I mean, I know lots of teacher couples, and I think it's positive for them.
I do think it's kind of understanding the pressures of the situation. But if you are dating someone and they don't understand, just get them to listen to this podcast and to like and subscribe, and then they will. And it's sorted.
Nice one, Jodi. Should we also subtly go to another listener who's written in?
Is this a listener that emailed beyondmailbag@twinkle.co.uk?
It is a listener that did that. Yeah. Who's married to a primary teacher but is actually a secondary teacher. So I'll read this for you. My husband is a primary teacher. We've had the odd disagreement about who has it harder, primary or secondary teachers, but generally it works very well. We understand each other's flashpoints and can support each other when they come up. For example, I know that at the end of the summer term, he has 20,000 words worth of reports to write. So we clear the calendar and I take on more of the childcare for that period. I don't think people outside the profession understand the stresses and strains as well. So I like being married to a fellow teacher.
Yeah, I have to say, kind of, there's a couple of the parents of the junior rowers who are teachers, and they do just get it without having to explain. And it's not, because it's not just the stuff that's quantifiable, it's everything else. And having that is so refreshing. And I've talked about my best friends who are nurses before, but they also really just get it. And I think it's because their profession is just as time consuming and just as exhausting, and just as people have a kind of view of what a nurse is and a view of what a teacher is.
They do.
And both those views are completely wrong, so they know that experience, and that's really, really nice to have.
Yeah, it's true. We did try and join Edudate, Tom.
We did.
And I. Yeah, we did.
We didn't get approved yet.
We weren't very successful.
When did you join it? Was that like this week?
Last week it was.
I only did my approved my email address.
The problem is, so at the minute, I have to, as I said, I'm a one-man band, so what I tend to do is I approve every single person on a human level for site access.
Wow.
So every person who signs up, I vet them.
That's quite good, actually.
Ooh, that is good.
Well, it's good, but it's frustrating for people if they're like, I've registered and I've got a backlog of people who I'm trying to vet.
Yeah.
And you also asked for a link to social media. Is that part of your vetting process?
Yeah. It depends on how they sign up. But if I feel like, usually I will ask for. So you have to input it when you sign up.
Yeah.
If someone doesn't input it, then I'll then try and ask for that. But obviously, it's only for internal purposes. It's never shared on the site or anywhere else.
Of course.
But if I can't use it, because sometimes someone will then send me a locked social account,
right?
Then after that, I then got to go back again and say, "Can you send something else?"
I imagine, particularly with a teacher, kind of like, all my social media is quite locked down. If you Google my name, you get to see my profile picture, you get to see a few things about the podcast and stuff like that. Yeah. But like
exactly, so the other thing that I might occasionally do is ask someone to send a photograph of their ID or institution badge.
Yes.
So sometimes I might do that. But, I mean, it's either that or just the problem is it couldn't be like a free for all with teachers. It could be on another dating website, I guess.
Oh, it is.
It still needs, yeah. But I think with Edudate, I think it has to be more. Yeah, I'm not sure what I want to say.
More considered, yeah.
Do you think we should celebrate Valentine's Day in the classroom? Do we talk about dating too much, too little?
Possibly too little. I think you can make an argument for that. Definitely. I think you could. Yes, we do a lot on sort of sex and relationships and stuff, but we don't actually talk about etiquette around dating.
Yes.
And we don't really talk to students about how to, in this day and age, well, for want of a better word, pull.
Yeah. And how to do it safely, but still not, while still enjoying yourself. Is that a weird thing to say?
No, not at all.
Yeah, because if you imagine 10 to 20 years ago, no, maybe a bit longer, but certainly 20 years ago, when I was at uni, like, wasn't that long ago actually, but it was still in that period, 2003, 2006 kind of time. The way to try and get with someone was to go up to them in a bar or a pub.
Yeah, exactly.
Or on a night out, or at the end of a night out, whatever it was. And now with online dating, there's a new set of things. And also I think as well, like, maybe people don't know they can still do that.
Yeah, and it's
or they're scared to do that now. Maybe people are more scared to do that now. They're thinking this is more, I mean, thinking like, I don't know, 2003, it was like, I've had like, this isn't me, by the way, but, people are like, I've had like 3 pints of Stella, I can go and chat this person up now. Whereas now they'd be like, I've had 3 pints of Stella, I better not go near anyone, or I'm going to say something I'm later going to regret.
It's a good point, that.
Yeah. I mean, I quite strongly believe that it's not just up to teachers and schools to parent these children, but there needs to be that discussion of like how to date safely. And we do the kind of how to have sex safely, but normally that comes after quite a bit of dating, or at least a conversation, and we need to make sure that bit is safe first. Usually at least a little bit of conversation. just a couple
of words exchanged. Find out the name. Summit.
So Tom, does Edudate work for LGBT+?
It does, yeah. So when you sign up, you can obviously say who you're seeking, and then we I mean, the actual format of Edudate is inclusive in the sense that you can sort of just look and see who someone is seeking. So which is perhaps better than sort of segregating people into different, like, all lots
into
of
boxes.
sections. Yeah. So that's how it works, basically.
It's your own time you're wasting. Ramblings from beyond the classroom with Marie and Jodi. There's not a lot they don't know about teaching.
Right, well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tom. We like to, as a teacher, you'll be familiar with this, but we like to finish our podcast with 2 stars and a wish, although we rarely stick to 2 stars. So the star is a tip, a story you enjoyed from this episode, and then we'll pick a wish all together. Do you have any stars, either of you?
My star would be, I like the fact that on Edudate it's quite inclusive and open, so you can see who somebody's seeking.
Tom, do you have a star for today?
I think my star is going to be stars, which is you lot for making this podcast.
Thank you.
Right. Mailbag at twinkle.co.uk or whatever the email address was.
And our wish for today, I wish that everyone who wants love finds love.
Oh, Jodi.
I'm sorry, I just need to be sick.
Are you going for Miss World, Jodi? Are you
I
auditioning for Miss World 2023?
2024.
I like
2023.
children and animals, and I'd like to change the world.
No, I want to be the Mean Girls fan. I want to make a cake made of rainbows, and we'll all eat it and be friends.
Brilliant. Do you have a wish, Tom?
That I don't say anything or do anything stupid on any given day.
That's a
fair enough.
Great
I've
wish.
just about managed it in this podcast. So
it's been brilliant.
It has. It's been really good. My wish, if you want to hear it. Do you want to hear it? No one asked me, but
not
really. I'm giving it you anyway.
Go on.
Yeah, go on.
My wish would be that everybody gets a magical photo taking gene that enables them to show their best selves on dating sites rather than not.
Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and do sign up for Edudate if you are dating. It is a great site.
And I'll try and verify you quicker.
And if it takes a while, just think of poor Tom on his own trying to decide whether you're real or not.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.
Cheers.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. Thanks for inviting me on. It was great. Good laugh.
This podcast is proudly produced by Beyond. Please bear in mind the views and opinions expressed are those of individuals and may not represent those of Beyond or Twinkle.